29th May 2023. Today is Inauguration Day in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Their 16th president is being sworn in today. Mr. Tinubu becomes President Tinubu. I'm sure there'll be a lot of that in the news from midday onwards, and we'll give you pictures and things when we get them. You're welcome to GTV Breakfast. I have two guests in the studio to have the conversations on trending issues. Comrade Adel Umar is a member of the National Communication Team of the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, and Isaac J. Hyde is Deputy National Youth Organizer of the New Patriotic Party. Gentlemen, you're all welcome. Thank you. It's good to have you here. Hope you had great weekends. Awesome. Before we dive into conversations, I just want to get this off my chest because it has to do with these online loan apps. We're getting some response from the central bank in the week, but let me just read verbatim to you a message I got from somebody last night. Evo, which is me, there is something going on that many Ghanaians have fallen victim to, and some of the authorities are aware of, but are keeping mute. If nothing is done sooner than later, it will lead to some form of trouble for some Ghanaians. Evo, there's a recent rise in online loan apps in Ghana. Many of us knowingly or unknowingly have fallen victim to them, such that there are some reported cases of some people committing suicide because of defamation from the loan apps. Many have made reports to the police, but all the police will say is, there is nothing we can do. When you download and sign onto the app, they request access to your contact list, your files, your location, your Ghana card or voter's ID card and calendar before you are granted the loan. So if you apply for a loan of about 200 cedis, you'll be given about 110. The 90 is what they call processing fee. In return, you have to pay about 200 or 210 cedis in 7 days. For the fact that you need the money, you apply for it. Therefore, the problem is that if you're not able to pay back within the 7 days, they will call and insult you very well. The worst is if they call and you do not answer or the phone is off, they'll send messages to your contacts telling them you are owing them and refusing to pay. If nothing is done, the next thing they will do is circulate your pictures to all your contacts and on Facebook, claiming you are a fraudster, rapist, ritualist, or an HIV patient. It's reported that some people who couldn't withstand this humiliation ended up committing suicide, others going into serious depression. And the claim is that 90% of them are owned by foreign nationals. I decline to mention the countries, but foreign nationals who have employed Ghanaians to work for them. A few years ago, the government in a West African country arrested and banned them after they started defaming people. Unfortunately, they found a safe haven in Ghana. Therefore, we are pleading with you to talk to the authorities to regulate their activities. Unfortunately, I've also fallen victim to their defamation. One app wasn't working, and someone called me to make payment into his account. I refused and insisted on paying through the app. Therefore, within 10 minutes, I started receiving calls and messages from my contacts, claiming they have received messages asking them to tell me to pay my loan. The worst part was when my mom, who is sent to the village to receive treatment after being sick for months now, called to lament about the message sent to her. I fell sick at once. I nearly died. I haven't been well since Monday. For months now, as a man, I have not had an erection for once because I'm very depressed. I'm always thinking of how I raise money to pay my loan. I'm a private school teacher. All we are asking is Bank of Ghana, Ghana Police, and the telco should work together and regulate their activities. Therefore, we know the great job you're doing, and I believe strongly that when you draw attention to the authorities, some drastic things will be done. Otherwise, they'll start witnessing very serious consequences. It says I should kindly log on to Facebook and search for a page called Loan App Victims. You will see the trauma some people are going through on a daily basis in the hands of these loan sharks. We get money and use to pay for the loans. Examples of the apps, and it gives me examples of the app which I will post to the Bank of Ghana official tomorrow. So for now, I will not mention them, but they are quite a lot. And he says, I've not had a good night's sleep for months now because every day I'm going to think about how to get money to pay for my loans. Can't even afford my mom's medication again. I'll attach screenshots of some of the messages they sent and how they also defame those who default in payment. God bless you. May he lift you higher than before. I also said amen to that. So this is the story of the online loan app victims. This is what he's claiming. I'm going to forward all of this to the Bank of Ghana. We are in touch with the communications people there, and then we'll follow up on this during the week to give you some more information on how to protect yourself from some of these people and to find out whether the ones he even mentioned are regulated or not. So that's the story that I wanted to get off my chest this morning. And now I shall cease my rant or my information that I took off my chest and speak to my guests now who have come here to speak to you. I'm going to start with, I think I'll start with Isaac. We have a tradition here. We ask, what's on your mind, before we even get to the news. So what's on your mind this morning?
Well,
Isaac, J.
Thank you very much. Greetings to your cherished viewers.
Yes.
I mean, I'm honored to be here. I've been watching you since ages, man. I still want to be rich. Actually.
That's your final answer?
Yes.
It's your final answer?
Indeed.
All right, okay.
Yes, and I'm glad that today I've joined your esteemed panelists for us to have discussions that concern Ghana.
Sure.
I mean, of course, I may have a number of things on my mind, except for this new introduction, this issue about online loans.
Yeah,
and,
you can talk about it. Yeah, no problem.
I've heard a number of people speak about it, but I mean, this is the first time I've had to pay attention with somebody being detailed about it. Of course, people must also understand that once you go for a loan, you should be ready to pay. I mean, if you go for a loan and you give a collateral, I mean, the person who gave the loan reserves the right to either use force or whatever means to take back the money. Sometimes I think that we also have a problem with that attitude, because you see, you sign up to something, you had an agreement. Perhaps the approach by which some of these loan agencies are using to go after people may not be the right way. And that's why I agree that there's a need for us to regulate the activities of some of these people. As to whether they are even licensed to do what they are doing online is a question that we all should be interested in. But that notwithstanding, if an individual goes out there to, contract a loan from an agency, the person should not think that once you reserve the right to determine as and when you want to pay. I think that there should be a means where people can go out there and engage to see to it that an amicable way can be used to settle some of these things rather than throwing people onto social media and ending up embarrassing them. So, I mean, we'll wait to hear from our authorities and then we'll be able to better comment on some of these things.
All right. So what was on my mind is also on your mind now. It is so.
Right.
Adele,
Coffee.
what's on your mind this morning, man?
A warm good morning to my brother and yourself, and to say a very warm good morning to the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Noor Shalbutu. I'd like to also take this opportunity to say a warm good morning to my dad, Sheikh Umar Ibrahim, the National Imam of the Sunni Muslims. This very issue you're talking about, when I heard you speak about it, it kind of, reminded me of a situation just about 2 months ago. Perhaps less. So I have this friend, Halima Sadia. She lives in Medina. I was there one afternoon and then I saw a message with her picture.
Wow.
Her picture and her Ghana card, sent to me. This lady owes us this amount of money. I still have it here. She owes us this amount of money and she has to pay. If she doesn't pay, we will deal with it. With her picture and everything. So I freaked out because I was like, So I messaged back, how much does she owe? And then they're like, she owes 600 Ghana cedis. It was an online thing and she borrowed. And so she owes 600 Ghana cedis. And I was like, okay, but wait. Granted, she owes you 600 Ghana cedis. In fact, the police service does not have the power to publish anybody without the court's orders.
Exactly.
So how come you're circulating her pictures if she owes you 600 Ghana cedis? Then the chat ended. So I called her. I said, Halima, what's going on? Your picture is everywhere. You owe 600 Ghana cedis. She was like, hey, look, don't mind these guys. Yes, I took a loan from them. I paid part of it. The time for me to finish paying elapsed. So they charged me extra. So you actually charge the person extra when the person elapsed and then extend the time for the person to pay. That extension has not elapsed. And you're already calling her and telling her, pay the money, and it's everywhere. I remember she said she wanted to prosecute, and I told her, look, finding their office is even going to be a problem. I called them, they said, we are in Adenta. We said, okay, we made an official complaint. We said, come to headquarters. The CID called them, come to headquarters. And that was it. So this is very, very worrying. Look, I'll tell you something. Something happened recently of which a couple of my friends ended up as victims. We call it the Neon. I don't know if you've actually seen it.
No.
Neon. So what they do is that they cloned an international page of a company who produces, alternative energy. So wind, what do you call it, solar, blah, blah, blah. And then what they tell you is that you can actually invest in the company by buying a generator. So they count in PVs. So you make the payment via MTN mobile money. Once you do that, immediately it comes onto your platform. So you can see on your platform that you have actually gotten this money. Every morning, listen to this, Kafi, every morning, all you have to do is open the app and click start working. And then when you click start working, your account is immediately credited. So depending on how much you invested, if you do the 5,000, I think you're making 600 Ghana cedis a day. If you do the 10,000 one, you're making like 1,200 cedis a day. And when you click, your account automatically records 1,200. You can only make withdrawal between Monday to Thursday. No withdrawals Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They run this thing, people were putting in money, people were making money out of it, All of a sudden, one Thursday, they went like, oh, so if you want to continue to earn, you need to up your investment. For whatever you have actually invested, all of them, you need to up the amount. So they actually made an increase. People now couldn't increase the amount, so they couldn't basically work. Between Friday and Sunday, by Monday, oh God.
The guys disappeared.
Look, I'll tell you something. I personally played a role in this one. I remember I had to get, what do you call it, Alhaji Fofana from the MPP to talk to Madam, is it Esloosu? I had to go to, what do you call it, the space that the NDC built, at... I had to basically go there. The cybercrime,
Security Authority,
CSA. I had to basically go to CSA. We built it. We didn't build it. CSA, and then basically have a conversation with them and all of that. And at the end of the day, MTN was sent a letter. We had a police report. Basically just freeze the accounts because they had millions of cedis in them. The accounts were frozen. Give us details, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. People got frustrated and they left it. But look, people are struggling. People are looking for alternatives to survive. People are looking for ways they can actually make some easy funds. The system is not well, it's not well placed. We need to really start looking at these things. Cybercrime, it's crazy. Millions of cedis. They just siphoned in a day.
I think that, we should also understand that these are Ponzi schemes, and there are laws that regulate or deal with such crimes. But while at it, time and again, it has also shown that criminals are always one step ahead of the authorities. And so, whilst I agree with him that we need to be proactive, I think that it also builds on us as citizens or people living in a society to be a bit circumspect and also guard sometimes our insatiable desire to make easy money, because that cannot be taken out of the conversation. Because it's essentially somebody doing a Ponzi scheme. How do you put in 1,000 cedis and expect that in the next 2 days you're going to earn 5,000 cedis and then you jump at it? I've had instances where people have called you and they are not even able to tell you the reality of the situation, but somebody tells you that, oh, this was my rent money and I used it hoping that I was going to get this amount of money, and now I'm locked up. Now my landlord is chasing after me. So, we can have this conversation. We can ask the authorities to up their game. They will go after these people. But we as a people also have a role to play to ensure that we don't become victims of some of these actions of people.
All right.
Kafi, let me add a little touch there. Yeah. So, yes, I agree that people would have to also, watch what they do and, where you put your money and all of that. But Kafi, there's a reason why we have a constitution. You cannot stop crime from being undertaken. Crime would always happen, like it or not. Like you said, they are one step ahead of us. But there's a reason why we have a constitution, we have a system to be able to protect and at least punish people when they commit the crime. Human beings are not like goats where you can just get up in the morning, open them, let them go feed and come back. There's a reason why we go through punishments. There's a reason why we go through some form of education. There's a reason why people need to be punished to a certain extent, in order for you to curtail or reduce. Imagine what would happen, Kafi, imagine what would happen if we didn't have a constitution. Imagine what would happen if we didn't have, say, the Ghana Police Service. I could walk into the studio, perhaps, pick up your phones, and then, you try to fight, we fight back, I pick it, I go. Nobody does anything. But when the punishment is meted, it makes a difference. So, like I'm telling you, like the example of this one that I spoke to you about, the neon. Imagine if the CSA immediately, we went onto their phones, we started investigating, we started pulling out whatever conversations they're having. MTN played ball, they immediately gave information. The monies that were in the account were actually really frozen, and something was done and people were arrested. People are being arrested when the police want to arrest them. If you do that, they will think twice. But you see, you talk about it and say, oh, it's okay, and then, oh, you shouldn't have gone there. Yes, they shouldn't have gone there, but they have. Somebody has to be punished.
Regulation.
Citizens
must be responsible.
Exactly.
And regulation too must work. Can we agree on that?
I mean, I agree with him, but I think
it's not an either or.
It's not either. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's a two-way
street.
Two-way approach to dealing with this thing, because there are instances where some of these things even emanate from our constituency, our electoral areas or our communities. Sometimes some of these Ponzi schemes you see widespread starts small from various areas, and before you realize it generates a certain national appeal.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many times I also know that the authorities work on some of these things without necessarily even giving it a whole media attention of a sort. But there have been instances where Bank of Ghana and the Securities and Exchange Commission and some of these relevant institutions have even issued statements telling citizens not to, patronize some of these things.
We will get the update tomorrow.
You understand? Yes, so like I said, yes, we need to wait for the feedback from. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And if you have any experience with these online app loan shark people, send it to us, 055-556-1034. A message has come in. Good morning. My personal Momo account is on a recurring payment issue because I have used their app. See, we've drawn 6 times from our account, adding up to 657 cedis, but still claim they have not received their payment. All right. Personally, I've also been involved in this, where a contact of mine called me and said the people were taking her to the police, and she was on her way to go and pick up her children from school. So I had to pay that amount of money, I think 300 or 400 cedis, just to prevent them from doing what they wanted to do. And I keep getting messages that if you don't follow this person, we're going to disgrace him or her. And I'm thinking, who are you? Well, how do you have my number? I think there are some identity, privacy issues that need to be regulated, and I'm looking forward to the Bank of Ghana doing so. Okay. Yesterday was update number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 by the president. For those of you who didn't hear the president but are still curious about what he said, this is the summary. So the president discussed 2 important events that took place on May 17th. The first was an update on the COVID-19 pandemic. The second was the recent agreement reached with the International Monetary Fund, aka IMF. The president announced that the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 no longer a public health emergency of global concern. He also stated that there is evidence of reducing risks and decreasing trends in COVID-19 related deaths, hospitalizations, and intensive care admissions. The president reported on the COVID-19 situation in Ghana, stating that there have been over 1,400 deaths attributed to COVID-19 and no critical or severe cases at present. He says Ghana has conducted over 2.5 million tests, administered over 25 million vaccine doses, and fully vaccinated over 10.5 million people. He also said that the COVID-19 task force met on May 17th and decided that the COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana was over. As a result, all COVID-induced restrictions at airports and entry points have been lifted, returning to pre-COVID health entry requirements. A couple more. The president highlighted the impact of the pandemic and the measures taken, such as the devastating effects on various sectors, including education, hospitality, religious gatherings. He praised the resilience and leadership of the health sector, the religious leaders, the traditional authorities, private sector, and the media throughout the crisis. He also acknowledged the expenses incurred during the pandemic, including testing, treatment, vaccinations, and public education efforts, reassuring the public that COVID-19 expenditures will be audited and subject to parliamentary processes. The president expressed gratitude to various individuals and institutions, including health workers, faith-based groups, political and business leaders, security services, teachers, students, parents, journalists, and the media in the whole country, actually. He also mentioned the importance of mental health support and acknowledged the contributions of the Ministry of Health, implementing agencies, healthcare providers, and regulatory bodies. He also thanked the National Ambulance Service, digital technologies, drones for their role in healthcare delivery, expressed his appreciation for the Vice President and all those who supported and advised him during the crisis. And finally, he acknowledged that while the emergency was over, the economic consequences remained and emphasized the commitment to protecting the lives of the Ghanaian people. So in brief, if you didn't listen, now you know what the president spoke about yesterday. What's your reading of update number 29, Adele? And I'll come to you, Jay.
Kafui, I heard the president speak yesterday, and I must say that it's been a long journey, from the time COVID came up until today. I must also acknowledge the sacrifices that we have done, as a nation to get to this point, from the media, the health workers, and all the sacrifices that government also had to make, regardless of all the other issues that came up. Of course, I know we would enter into those conversations going forward. However, Kafui, I cannot celebrate, this achievement and this stride we've actually talked over the years without having to acknowledge the contributions of the former President John Dramani Mahama. And in order to break it down for you, I'll take you slightly back. Every time I have an opportunity to talk about that man and the fact that he is a generational thinker, it really gets to me. And every time I kind of get some respect, for him by the day. We had a problem, and you would understand how these social interventions helped going forward. We had a problem which had festered for so many years. President Kufuor had that same problem. And what was that problem? The issues that has to do with electricity. In 2013, 2014, this country was hit with one of the most serious electricity problems that we've ever had. And when I come forward, you would come to get what I'm actually building towards. We had Dumsor. We had major issues with generational capacity. An issue that has to do with the fact that we couldn't really generate enough electricity. So you would remember during the time of President Kufuor, we had the same issues back and forth. President Mahama sat down and thought, look, we needed to do something different. Let's do something unique. Let's solve this problem once and for all. It keeps going and coming back. Let's just deal with it. So we came up with the issues of Ameri, we came up with the issues of car power, we came up with the IPPs. Why? Because we needed to, first of all, generate extra electricity. At the time, this had actually brought the revenues being collected in the country to like zero, like all the way down. Why, Kafui? Because companies are not producing. People were being laid off. Barbering shops were not working. Everybody was struggling. Media houses, everybody was struggling. We needed to do something different, something unique. So taxes were not being coming. If companies are not being able to bring in raw materials, we cannot get taxes even at the ports to be able to show up whatever taxes we receive and whatever revenues we get. So the country was in a total mess. We said, look, quickly, let's do something. We had Ameri. They had their issues. They spoke about it. John Mahama has pocketed $160 million. Let's leave all of that. I want the essence of the issue. We dealt with it. 2016, by end of 2016, we had dealt with the issue of electricity, this whole Dumsor thing. I'm asking you, Kafui, I'm trying constantly to imagine what this country would have gone through if COVID hit us at the time we had Dumsor. Have you thought about it? Like, what would have really happened, if we had the hospitals, yes? What would have happened if the hospitals were available, but there was no electricity? That is one. The second thing I'd like to go back and talk about is hospitals. And then, I hear the MPP always talk about the fact that, when we talk about social intervention, then the NDC is shouting and blah, blah, blah. What is social intervention? Any, support a government, any organization offers to better the lives, the social lives of the people. If I put a hospital in Bekwai, that makes it easy for my brother Hyde or his auntie or anybody else who is close to get hospital, to actually visit. That is social intervention in the life of the people. If I put a school close to them, if I extend electricity, if I extend water, yes, you can talk about the other social interventions like the health insurances and the likes, but let me ask you something. If you have a health insurance card and you swiped it on your jacket, do you get health care? No. You would need a hospital. Infrastructure cannot be taken away. So what did we do? We said, hey, it's fine. We need to look at how we can also create some hospitals. So we started. I mentioned a couple of them here the last time. Tamale Teaching Hospital, we did expansion. Ridge Hospital, we did expansion. UGMC, we did expansion. Ghana Maritime, we did expansion. Dodua District Hospitals, we did them. I can keep going. The Kumasi, the military hospital. All these investments came in to support and made work easy for COVID. Imagine again what would have happened, second time, 2 times. Imagine again what would have happened if His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, did not invest in hospitals. So you're looking for places to quarantine people. You're looking for places, at a point in time, certain dignitaries, certain honorables, big men, ministers, were placed at the UGMC. How beautiful, how nice. They had somewhere to sleep, So we're saying that this is a country we're building. And every time we have the opportunity, we would want to leave something that people can actually touch. So the man is sitting home in opposition. He's touching lives 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. He's going to continue to touch lives in UGMC, touch lives in Ridge, touch lives with Ameri, touch lives with Car Power, and touch lives with IPPs.
So basically what you're saying, the 30-second summary is that we should not be unaware of the investments that were made in power and hospital infrastructure that supported the fight against COVID that we are happy for today.
Exactly. I'm just saying that.
Awesome.
I'm just saying that.
Thank you.
Exactly. So pretty much there was an investment done. That investment, whether we like it or not, if it wasn't in existence, COVID would have been worse off.
You can't argue with that, can you, Mr. Hyde? Yes, you can't hide away from that.
I mean, it amazes me that you asked a straightforward question about, our fight against COVID-19, and I was expecting him to start with the conversation of the president's speech with us yesterday, and then he zooms in straight into...
You want to control his thoughts?
No, I'm not controlling his thoughts, but you see, sometimes, it's not everything that has to be politics as far as I'm concerned. I'm a political person, but you see, there comes a time where you have to be nationalistic. There comes a time where you have to be proud of your country. I say this because, you see, we the 90s born children, we came in at a time where we were told of a certain famine in Ghana in 1983. And we didn't live to experience it, but we've been told of the hardships and the challenges that people went through. Rocks being cooked as food just so children could wait and all. We as a generation also have our story to tell for the future, that once in our lifetime, there was an experience of a certain COVID-19 that came at a time where we had no experience whatsoever, or we had no expectation, where nobody knew anything about it. And then suddenly, boom, the whole world is being infected with a certain disease that is causing us to alter our lifestyle. The common, cultural relation between an ordinary Ghanaian and a brother is for you to see and shake a hand. It's for you to speak to a fellow. And this is the time you cannot even look at anybody in the eye. Or even sometimes, you're even afraid because at the early stages of this COVID, we didn't have any understanding of it. People were just avoiding people and all kinds of things.
Those times, if somebody coughed cleared his throat,
Charlie, the whole room, I'm sure everybody.
What's going on?
You get that thing, and then calls into question the issue of leadership. Leadership is what the president and his team demonstrated, and you see, I have fond memories of COVID because at the time I was Nook's president. And I was part, some way, somehow, of the fight to make sure that we surmount the challenge of what COVID presents to us. And maybe our brother doesn't have a picture of what was at stake. This was a time where we had to go on a lockdown. During lockdown, people were not moving in and out. In fact, people were so frustrated in their homes that they were even trying to step out there just to know what was happening outside of those homes. We had closed our borders for about 3 years. We had made sure that people were not moving from one place to the other. We were doing contact tracing. We needed to ensure that we were employing more health personnel so that we can identify people who have been infected and provide a relevant health care. But for leadership, Ghana would not have been part of the equation, because at some point in time, across the world, Ghana was the poster boy or the example which countries were using to make an example to their citizenry about how effective people can manage situations. I say so and I discount what he's putting across, because in the year 2014 in this country, cholera, that people have diarrhea and they are running, killed over 250 people in this country. President John Mahama was here when over 250 people died in this country because of cholera. And then you ask me, you come and sit on radio, on TV, and you talk about, electricity and everything. I don't want us to digress or divert our attention from the wonderful successes we chalked with this COVID-19 fight. And the president gave some wonderful statistics yesterday when he spoke about our fight against COVID-19. The fact that, as it stands now, and peace be unto anyone who lost his life in this fight, because we've had over 1,000 deaths out of this COVID-19. And I tell you that the demonstrable capacity of our healthcare workers, and I say so in all humility because a number of them lost their lives in this fight, that if they had a capacity or an understanding of the situation that we faced at the time, they would have saved the lives of these 1,400 and so people. But beyond that, we have also managed to achieve certain successes. Today, as I speak to you, we have built a vaccine institute. A vaccine institute that is going to ensure that during the time of COVID-19, the president had been championing a certain agenda, the need for a Ghana and an Africa that is reliant on itself. Because you see, when you have a global pandemic like that, the World Health Organization technically takes over and declares something we call FEC, Public Health Emergency of International Concern. Because you do not understand it, I do not understand it, there's a need for us to synergize or bring our resources together and make sure we are able to manage this thing effectively. It is on the back of this that we can better collaborate and say that when I close my borders, you also close your borders. When I close my ports, you also close your ports. So that collectively we can control it. And then in doing so, we manage that all the little supplies of doses of vaccine which were coming, we have to go and beg who? We have to go and beg China. We have to go and beg Russia. We have to go and beg the US. They also have citizens they needed to take care of. But they will consider, okay, out of, politics, out of, relations and other things, I'll give you 20 of what I have so that. And if you look at the dynamics of the global health system at the time, somebody couldn't sacrifice his and give it to you. Beyond the issue of we finding enough doses to come and protect our citizenry, is the issue of our ability to even provide testing facilities. At the time, we had barely 2. Noguchi had gone through a certain renovation that even we became beneficiaries of with the help of Japan. And I tell you that as I speak to you today, we have over 60 testing machines and facilities that can help alleviate issues that we face today. And it boils down to leadership. The constant engagement and interaction of the President of the Republic gave us a certain hope. So that whereas in other countries, people were in despair, people didn't know what was happening, in Ghana, we were constantly being updated. Now the issue about electricity. I keep saying that I don't want to follow the thoughts of my brother here because, sometimes we like to major in the minors. But I sit here as a proud Ghanaian because leadership has gotten out of what would otherwise have been the worst situation we could find ourselves, especially when you can tell the examples of what happened in Senegal, Nigeria, and other places. And so, yes, I support the call of the president and everybody who participated or sort of was part of the committee, the likes of Dr. Nsia Ansari, the Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Education, and all other people. I tell you, one of the incidences which happened in my time was how people were even going to go back to school because, you sit there and then you hear, oh, there's an outbreak here. And at the time, once somebody is sick, it is perceived that the person has COVID. And from the president's interaction yesterday, I was even surprised that as of January this year, somebody had died because of COVID. It is only recently that the World Health Organization once again has stated that COVID is no more a global threat, and so we can be back to our normal ways. But I re-emphasize that I am proud of where I come from. I am proud of my president. I am proud of the health ministry. I am proud of everybody who managed to put Ghana on a spotlight at a time when everybody was looking inward and were confused. See, Little did we know that we could even go and use GTP and other things to design nose marks. Now the question of self-reliance, the question of looking inward and our ability to manage things from within came into question. And when the time came, when we called on the Ghanaian people and industries, they stood up to the test. We don't want to go into the challenges and the repercussions of the COVID-19 and in our bid to manage it. Some of the economic issues we face today is as a result of that. And I believe that this is the first point. We'll go into some of these fine details. But clearly, I want my brother to understand that President John Mahama and the NDC are not the yardstick for measuring success when it comes to dealing with health pandemics. Every government at some point in time will do certain interventions. If I tell you the state of development relative to Agenda 111, it will marvel you. Many NDC MPs have sat on national televisions to even tell their people how they have been beneficiaries of a certain president's directive. And so I say so without any regret that President Akufo-Addo is the best president we could have at this time. And interestingly, almost every time we'll have a certain global pandemic of a sort, it has to be the NPP that is in power. If the NDC want to tell us of their capacity,
you had another go. When was the first pandemic? I don't have to challenge you on that. Anytime there's a pandemic, MPP is in power. What pandemic did Mr. Kufuor face?
I don't want to leave my talk. I'll come there.
No, I need to, because you said it.
I'm saying that almost every time we are going to have a national issue, you understand, that challenges our ability to manage issues. It is the MPP that is.
But that's the job of every president. Every president
exactly. So that is why I'm saying that. You see, so that's what I'm saying, that even the first aspect of Dumsor did not start in Mahama. The question of His Excellency President Mahama and his leadership, or the NDC, is management and capacity. And so when he cites electricity management and what they do with car power,
was it
the
solved,
NDC
was it solved?
You see,
was it solved?
It was solved.
And
do you know about the mine reserve plans?
Was the Dumsor solved?
Under NPP, indeed it was solved. Indeed, under NPP, Dumsor was solved. And we didn't have to wait for 4 years to solve Dumsor.
Was it solved before Mr. Mahama exited power as well?
From what I know, Mahama took steps to address Dumsor.
He didn't solve it?
I'm saying that he took steps to address Dumsor.
Is it a fact that he solved it or he didn't?
I'm saying that President Mahama...
Was there still Dumsor in 2017, January 7th?
At the end of the day, President Mahama took steps to address Dumsor.
Did he solve it?
And at the time that we came into office, we had to come even continue some of these negotiations where there were issues of excess power negotiations and all kinds of things.
So our power going on and off from January 7th,
what I'm saying is that
2017.
let me focus on the substantive matter.
No, you brought the issue up.
No, but at the end of the day, I was responding to an issue that he raised. We'll get there.
I can't allow stuff. You know what?
No, listen.
With the greatest of respect, I cannot allow things to fly without. That's my job. My job is to. I can ask the questions that I want, and you answer any way you want, but. If I have to challenge, I will have to challenge.
And I don't have a problem with that.
So I just want to know whether Dumsor existed after January 7, 2017, when the president took over.
I'm saying that in 2017, when we came into office,
was there Dumsor?
Ghana had been through 4 years of Dumsor.
Was there still Dumsor on Inauguration Day?
There were sporadic lightouts within this country.
Just like we do now.
No, what we are saying, the circumstances are different. We have told you.
I know they are different, but you cannot just say that Dumsor was not solved.
No, but that is not for you. I'm saying that there was sporadic. No.
I lived in Ghana.
It is the fact that has to speak to itself. There were sporadic lightouts at the time.
So there was Dumsor in 2017.
There was Dumsor under NDC. No two ways about that.
Yes, but was it solved before they left?
And as I speak to you, I would want to focus on the substantive issue.
You brought it up.
I'm saying that.
Mr. Hyde,
no, listen.
Mr. Hyde, you brought the issue. I didn't say anything about Dumsor.
I'm not disputing that. I am saying that at the time NDC was in power for 4 years, Ghanaians had to live through Dumsor.
We agree on that, but was it solved before they left?
They took steps to address Dumsor, but NDC did not solve Dumsor.
Who solved Dumsor?
NPP continued from where NDC left off.
Is that not what governance is?
Exactly.
So
why then should somebody own it up and say that during NDC's time, we did ABCD, and that is what I'm addressing.
So they didn't solve Dumsor?
I'm saying that they didn't solve Dumsor. But the reason why I'm sitting here, and for which reason I expect us to focus on the substantive matter, is not for us to come and talk about energy-related issues.
I decided to focus on what I want to focus on.
Fair enough, but I'm saying that the reason why I'm here is for us to discuss the president's conversation yesterday.
Exactly.
And so let's stay on the substantive matter. As and when somebody raises an issue relative to the discussion,
Mr. Hyde,
I'm bound to respond.
You are telling me how to do my job.
No,
I find that quite interesting.
I'm not telling you how to do your job. I just want
you to just substantiate your claim.
And I have stated it that at the time we came into office in 2017, the NDC, having had Ghanaians sleep in Dumsor for 4 years, the NDC had taken steps to address Dumsor. We came to continue from where they left off. It does not mean that wholly the NDC can say that they solved Dumsor. And this is not a matter that we should even go in and try to, force a certain position on this matter. What remains a fact is that when NPP came into power, there had been negotiations, there had been interactions, there has been efforts to solve Dumsor. But the problem has not been eliminated. And so, until you can say that, you have something contrary to what I'm saying, I would beg to respect it. You understand? Senior, unless, of course, you're asking me to give you dates.
Yes.
You asked me that in 2017, when we came into office, I said that there were sporadic light outs, which was part of the 4-year Dumsor issue we're facing. So, Senior, let us focus on the president's conversation. I beg, with all due respect. And then I come back to the substantive issue.
We're done for now because you've taken quite a lot of time. So
I agree. But of course, you were also very well. Thank you very much.
Of course, let's hear the president speak. Yeah. So the president spoke yesterday. Update number 29
has been a very expensive undertaking, characterized as it was by lockdowns, closed borders, minimal economic activity, and the consequential steep decline in revenue. The testing for the millions who went to public laboratories, the quarantine of arrivals from outside the country, hospital admissions, treatments and feeding for all patients were publicly funded and cost vast sums of money. The vaccination program was expensive, very expensive. Even though we received some donated vaccines, we purchased a lot with our own resources. And the multiple countrywide vaccination campaigns cost a lot of money. The fumigation, cleansing, and disinfection of markets, schools, offices, and other public spaces also cost a lot of money. Free water was provided, and the cost of electricity subsidized. 54,000 additional health workers were hired, and all health workers obtained a tax rebate. Fellow Ghanaians, keeping us all informed about this most unpredictable virus was expensive. A lot of money was spent on public education, public information, risk communication, public and community engagements, and keeping us all abreast with the relevant information. We must thank the Ministry of Information and its agencies and the National Commission for Civic Education for their exceptional work. It took courage, and I'm particularly happy that we reopened schools, colleges, and universities at the time we did, in spite of the fears of some parents and the condemnation of our critics. In some countries,
how expensive the fight against COVID was. He reassured the public that COVID expenditures will be audited and subject to parliamentary processes. When? Mr. Hyde, when are we going to get the audit? He told us about how expensive it was. We need to know how much it was. It's public money, isn't it?
Yes.
What's the timetable for that?
Unless I don't have my facts right, I thought that the COVID accounts had been audited. And the president was making reference to certain preconditionalities you needed to meet before you go for an IMF bailout. I know that the audit service, has done some audits on the COVID-19 funds. And so some of the issues, of course, maybe what we should be asking for is for some of these, audit to be made public.
Yeah, because there's a question from one of our viewers, Alhaji Haruna Ashaiman. He says, President should scrap the COVID levy and account to the Ghanaians for how much has been collected since COVID is technically no more.
Yeah, no two ways about that. Okay. We owe it a duty to account to the Ghanaian people our stewardship, which includes how some of these funds have been used for.
Okay.
But there's also nothing wrong for the president to also give us an insight as to the gravity of the situation we faced at the time.
All right. So we got that. You espouse that so eloquently. Let me bring Adele into the conversation now. He's been listening to you. Adele. Yeah.
I have an article here. On the March 2nd, 2016, Mahama deserves no credit for fixing Dumsor. I quote, okay? So it says, the former governor of the Bank of Ghana, speaking on Joy FM, said he sees no reason why President Mahama would want the whole world to praise him for solving a problem he created. Let's have the conversation. For solving a problem he did what? He created. There are some lies in that. We'll come to it. This government inherited an economy without Dumsor. It is their own financial mismanagement which caused it. So we see no reason why they deserve credit for fixing a problem they created, Dr. Bawumia said. If I'm given the opportunity to choose between listening to Hyde and listening to the Vice President, I'll choose the Vice President. Do you know why? Because at his level and what he knows, he certainly wasn't lying when he spoke this in March 2016. You see, these are half-brothers. They have a very nice way, okay, of making you feel like you're discounted in everything. On one breath, he sits here and says, oh, don't politicize. We can't do that. But then ends up by saying that, oh, the NPP, within this whole issue have been able to build a vaccine center. Okay, yeah, that's fine. What is the vaccine center supposed to do? Help produce vaccines. What is the hospital supposed to do? What is which hospital supposed to do? What is Ghana Maritime supposed to do? What does it do? What is constant electricity supposed to do for the health sector? What is it supposed to do? You see, you cannot eat your cake and have it. But, Kafui, let me now let you understand why I feel the NPP, especially His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and the people around him, they are vindictive. Look, in 2014-15, when we had the issues with Dumsor, they forget. I mean, maybe for the first time, Hyde is trying to tell me that His Excellency, the former president, was an Olympic swimmer who had axe on his back, went into the sea, dived into the sea, and went to break the West African pipeline. He did that. He caused that. He brought that on us. Can you be honest for a moment? Can't you people just speak with some honesty? The extent to which Dumsor actually messed this country up is not one that can be discounted. 4 years, Kafui. At the point in time, I'm coming.
Who caused it or what caused it?
Kafui, we all know. So there was an issue of generational capacity. First, because the NDC after 2012 decided to embark on some massive infrastructure. When you're building factories, when you're building schools, you're building hospitals, you need excess energy, like it or not. At a point in time, we had this issue. Why? Kufuor had the same issue back then. Back then, we said, let's go to Akosombo and let's go and pray. Listen, let's go to Akosombo and go and pray so that it rains and then we can have electricity. Someone says, no, we'll do something different. We brought in Ameri. We brought in Car Power. We brought in the IPPs. We signed an agreement. I'll come to the issue of excess capacity. We signed agreements. They said, oh, we pocketed $160 million. We pocketed. In 2017, they were running in the house of our former minister, saying they're looking for evidence for the fraud in it. Hyde and I sitting here. Hyde knows that if he walks into Toyota Ghana today, and he has 200,000 Ghana cedis or 400,000 Ghana cedis in his pocket, and says he wants to walk away with a Land Cruiser, he will just pay and go. But if Hyde walks into Toyota Ghana and he has no peswa, and says, oh, but I have some ways I can pay, so just give me a time. If the car is worth $100,000, you will not pay $100,000. This is what we're met with. We didn't have the funds. Taxes were dropped. Revenues had dropped. Barbering saloons are not working. What else could you do? So we brought in Ameri. They said, we'll use our own money, we'll get the plant, but at a cost. So they added their cost to it. We did that without paying a peswa. Ameri paid for itself. We solved that. We brought it, we ended it. Now you sit here, you say, oh, they didn't solve it. We solved it. We did it. Again, he says you can discount the issues of hospitals. But then it is okay for him to basically just indicate that, oh, it's fine for them to have access. Let me tell you something. Kafui. Teaching hospitals.
A minute.
The 617 University of Ghana Teaching Hospital, the Tamale Teaching Hospital, which was the expansion, the regional hospitals, which is the 420, the Ridge Hospital, the Bolgatanga Hospital, the 250-bed Ashanti Regional Hospitals in what you call in Kumasi, the 160-bed Upper West Regional Hospital, the district hospitals, each with the capacity of 120 beds at Dodowa, Fomena, Kumewu. The Kumewu one, of course, they abandoned, and then now they're trying to basically fix it back. And then you come to the issue of Abetifi and others. these are the investments we made. You cannot discount it. In any case,
Exactly.
no, just to land.
No, you make your point.
Just landing, just about to land. One last thing. Who gave the NDC when we were hit with all these issues? After the West African pipeline got broken and we didn't even have funds at the time to be able to buy crude. After we had brought in the plants. Who gave us $22 billion? Who gave us? Who gave us more than $20 billion? Who gave us? We had none. But we placed in things, we placed in solutions, so much such that before you came to power, look, after solving that Atuabo gas processing plant, today we owe in excesses of $1 billion, but for our Atuabo gas processing plant, and the fact that all those monies are owed Ghanaian companies. $1 billion is what we put in Atuabo processing plant. You can discount that.
So you made the point about the energy stuff, but I also maintain that governance is a continuum. It's a continuum, and so people build, and then you build on top of each other. Can we agree on that at least?
Mr. Kafui, I think that I need to exercise a bit of a concern. You see, and I say so because, I don't have a problem with the subject matter under discussion. However, my understanding is that we are here to discuss matters related to COVID-19 efforts of governments, and then my brother shift the conversation to energy. My point is that we can go into the nitty-gritties of energy interventions of government, and even the former president telling us that common mobile phones, of which when people make phone calls, they are deducted talk time tax, is the cause of doom so. You understand where I'm coming from? But then of God, that is equally a conversation on another front. So if we are focusing on this conversation as to COVID, government intervention, and how much it has helped this country, for which reason we have been praised across the world, I'm all for it. If the conversation is shifting to energy conversation, I'm equally all for it. Because in the books of this government are countless number of interventions within the energy sector, are countless number of interventions within the health sector. So I want you to steer this conversation. I mean, I am begging you to steer this conversation into the direction that you want us to go, relative to the subject matter as brought to us. If the conversation is going to shift to energy, before we realize, we will lose focus. The Ghanaian people are eager to listen to us and understand and appreciate what the president has done for them. And so please, let us understand where this direction is going.
You guys know the games you play when you
No, there's no games.
Like
Mr. Kafu,
so
there's no
focus
games.
on what you want to say.
It is
Don't
not
worry
focus
about
on
what
me.
he's saying.
No.
You shift the conversation.
You have. I mean, sort of.
So you're
tried to
attacking
steer
me
this.
now.
I'm not
I'm
attacking
not steering
you.
anything.
No, I'm not attacking you. I'm stating the bare facts. I don't have a problem.
So what are the bare
I'm
facts?
saying that. It's the conversation.
What are the
That
bare
is what
facts?
made me
What are
understand.
the bare facts?
The bare facts is that across the world at some point in time, we were plagued by a certain pandemic that we did not have any answer to. Then comes a certain government, compared to governments across the world, that is able to manage this thing effectively. In the face of all the challenges that we face, mobilizing our security services, mobilizing our healthcare services, mobilizing the relevant stakeholders to make sure that we as a country fight this together. My mother, at the time, was working at the health sector. I know people who were working within the hospitality sector. When you close the borders, foreigners are the biggest people who patronize our hotels. When the hotels are closed, it is not just those foreigners who are affected. The cleaners are affected, the cooks are affected, the people who go and clean the rooms, the receptionists, all these people have been affected within the value chain. And so therefore, if you have a government, which at the time, despite all the hardships that we face, despite the fact that we have lost, the revenue we generate from people coming into the country, despite the fact that we have lost revenue from our ports, despite the fact that we are not able to earn foreign exchange, yet it's able to manage the issues, yet it's able to make sure that a wide spectrum of the Ghanaian people enjoy electricity without paying for it. Because he understands that many people fall within a certain bracket who have to be catered for.
I thought you didn't want to talk about energy. You brought electricity back.
This is not limited to energy. I'm telling you, you said we should stay within the spectrum. And this conversation is a broad spectrum about the things that the government has done. I'm saying that issues about energy are a constructive issue that we can go extensively into it.
But everything is interlinked. You can't just put things in boxes.
I'm not saying that I should be limited to energy. I'm saying that once you sought to intervene, of course, why is it that when I talk about health, you don't also focus on health? I'm not saying that you have taken this. I'm only saying that you are the moderator. You are the moderator of this conversation. And you have sought to make interventions as and when I make so. I'm only saying that yesterday the president's conversation was about interventions within the health sector and relative to our fight on COVID-19. And so therefore, let me understand if the conversation is steered in this direction. But once again, when he brings in energy, I'll respond to energy. And then the conversation is limited to energy, then you make interventions. If you ask me, no, I'm coming.
We have time.
If
This is
you
the only
ask
topic
me,
we're talking about.
if you
So
ask me,
all the
if
ramifications
he raises issues
are
about
good.
energy, I can go 1001% to ask questions about energy. And then we are losing focus on the substantive matter of which we have come
Nothing
to
is
be
lost.
here.
There's no loss of focus.
So what I'm saying
Everything
is
is
that
linked.
steer the conversation within the purpose for which we're invited
What I'm
here.
saying is, don't
Now,
tell me
let
how
me
to do my
let me
work.
let me
Mr. Hyde.
let me
Don't
go
tell me how to
on.
do my work, because I'm
So-
not telling you how to answer your question.
So now the question
All
is
right?
this:
I want
in
you
the
to
face
I
of
want
all
that
the
to be
challenges
clear.
we face,
I want that to be clear.
in
I'm
the
not
face
asking
of
you-
all
I'm
the
not asking
challenges
you-
that we
Mr.
face,
Hyde,
we had loss of revenue.
I'm not asking you how to answer your questions. Don't ask me how to answer.
I'm
tell
not
my-
telling you.
I'm not
You are the
asking you-
moderator.
I'm-
Are you saying that I cannot make
Don't-
contributions on your project on the program?
You are misunderstanding me.
So please, can I go on?
No.
Okay, please make your point.
Yeah, I want to hear the president first, then you go on. President can talk about taxes, COVID-19 taxes.
The COVID expenditures, essentially unplanned, have been subject at my instigation to audit by the Auditor General and are going through parliamentary processes. We all deserve to be reassured that the crisis was not used as a cover for corrupt practices. The COVID health recovery levy that was introduced to help fill some of the expenditure holes might not be the most popular tax, but I entreat all of you to bear with us. The COVID Trust Fund has performed an invaluable service, and with these developments has reached the end of its mandate. I thank the trustees as well as all donors and contributors to the fund.
Is that a good summary?
Yes, I mean, you're very much aware that there have been one of the challenges we even face in this country in terms of the debts we had across some of the sectors like health and then, the energy sector is because of some of these subsidies which were afforded to Ghanaians during this. And this thing will have a long-term effect. So, I mean, what we need from the government over time is to tell us how long we are going to recoup some of this, debts we've incurred. But notwithstanding, the trust fund, the work of the trust fund has come to an end, except that the taxes was not collected by the trust fund. The trust fund had a specific purpose to ensure that our health sector and all the stakeholders involved in the fight against COVID-19 were very much prepared for it. At least in between this period, we're able to provide the relevant PPEs to make sure that we are better protected, our healthcare workers, and Ghanaians were being protected for it. Now, I say this because there has also been some wonderful successes in our fight against COVID-19. You know about our quarantine facility, which was put together with the help of the private sector, I think somewhere around in Samoa, Moaji, and Kotoku. That is a plus for us. Then again, we're also able to, expand the works of, some of our health services. I mentioned earlier the fact that at the time we had only 2 testing facilities, but now we have over 67 of them. I believe that today, if we are plagued with another disease, which we pray that doesn't happen, we'll be better equipped to deal with some of these things. I also believe that with the introduction of the Agenda 111, which is seeking to read that 111 districts across the country are equipped with their own health care facilities, are all aimed at making sure that as and when we are plagued with this kind of challenges, it may not necessarily be limited to COVID-19.
Do you have an update on 111?
I know that, we have over 80 of the facilities which are at various stages of completion.
Where can we get that information so we can go and verify?
When we are done, I'll give you a link for which you can, check on some of these developments relative to Agenda 111. I have also maintained that, in view of this, we also have a vaccine facility. Quite recently, we realized that we had an issue about vaccines being available for newborn babies. The vaccine facility is not going to only produce vaccines for matters related to COVID, but really, issues about fighting cholera, issues about fighting polio, all these things are things that vaccine. And
all right,
in saying so, you realize that the NDC, we need to remind the NDC that we need an update on what the committee, which President Mahama at the time and the NDC put together, that is going to run parallel to government's COVID-19 task force, that they put together what they were going to do. Because as I speak to you today, you told the whole country that you have brought in the likes of Dr. Ayensu, my one gentleman I admire so much, the former Minister of Health, Mr. Alex Segbifia, We put together a committee.
So you want an update on that?
Yes, the NDC.
All right,
tell us
Adele is here.
Maybe Adele will speak for them.
Adele, what's the status of that parallel committee?
Before
We don't have time.
I know.
We have like 30 seconds.
I know. 10 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. We're almost out of time. What's the update on that committee?
So I can't sit here off head and tell you that I have information, the exact information on what is.
Is the committee still running?
The committee was running at a point in time, but I can't really sit here and tell you exactly what they have.
What did they able to achieve?
Well, you're the host now.
Oh, sorry.
It's Kafri. Look, see all of this mess we have, and my brother attacking you and all of that is because.
I'm not attacking him. I'm not attacking him.
See, when you're speaking, I don't agree to you, but I'm quiet. Out of respect, I beg you, Hyde.
I understand, but I'm saying I'm not attacking him.
Sure, I'm sorry. Okay. So, Kafri, listen to this. All of this is because I said that you need to credit John Mahama. All I said, look, just give him some credit and acknowledge the fact that he had done something. And then all of this is this. We could have just said, Hyde could have just said, oh yeah, I mean, the man did well because government is what? Continuum. Oh, he did well. He's, and we acknowledge, and he actually did solve the doom. So you don't need to lie about that. You could have just said, oh, the man actually did solve the doom.
Let me flip that question before we go. Can you congratulate Mr.
He can do it.
You. Can you congratulate the president for any achievements in this COVID fight?
Why not?
What are you happy about?
Oh, I mean, if not for anything at all, we know that as we speak right now, when he sat here, he's indicated the issue of the vaccine center that has been put up. We can talk about that. We can talk about the fact that the people around the time people were struggling. So yes, let's give a little bit of water, a little bit of electricity. We can talk about, even though we're paying for it, but it's fine. At the time, we couldn't pay for it, so it's fine. They gave it to us. We can talk about that. I'm not disputing. We're not. Look, the NDC, we're not evil. And when I say we're not evil, we acknowledge when we have to acknowledge. It is okay for him to sit here and talk about the fact that, oh, we came to talk about COVID and it's just COVID. But he forgets the fact that, Kafui, if you want to cook rice, as we speak, you want to cook rice.
You need fire.
Oh.
Okay, all right.
You want to cook rice. The rice is cooked. We're all eating it. I'm the father of the house. I bought the pot. I brought it. I bought the rice. I brought it. I gave you some salt. I gave him some water. And then my wife comes and then takes all these things and cooks. And then he says, oh, you cannot say thank you to Adele because, his wife cooked it.
Adele Umar speaks for the NDC's National Communication Team. Thank you, Adele. Thank you. Same question to you. What can you credit them for whole health stuff? You spoke about a lot about things that led to what was available for you.
Well, I mean,
what can you credit?
We've got to credit the NDC that after 250 Ghanaians died because of simple cholera, they had a wake-up call to start thinking of how we're going to build certain healthcare facilities. And I mean, the long run, we had to benefit from it in dealing with the COVID as well. And it tells us that once we work as a collective team, as a country, we are able to do better things for our people. And so, Adele, I mean, next time, let's not wait for 250 people to die. Cholera is so simple of an issue that we can deal with.
Look at
the competence of
Look
people
at that.
should be demonstrating that. We have been faced with COVID.
Look at that.
A situation that across the world, even China and the likes, with all their advancements in technology and healthcare, could not solve. And yet, a government of Nana Akufo-Addo, with all the challenges we face in Africa, has been able to solve it. I was hoping that when you come into the studio, once you ask a question, because the question is direct, what was your take on this? Oh, okay, we saw the NPP government do ABC. In doing so, we also need to commend His Excellency President Mahama for his efforts. But not to jump straight and go and say that energy, blah, 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 blah.
So you politicize the cholera, the cholera deaths?
Because you see, when you talk about cholera, I'm saying that cholera is so much a
simple issue. How about that?
But COVID, like I said, is a global issue.
A death is a death, my brother. Nobody cares.
Nobody discounts it. But I'm saying that cholera is not an issue that should kill 250 people in a country like Ghana. Cholera. You think that when we go to circle, we won't find medicine for cholera of people who are running, and President Mahama and his team could not solve it? Yes, we could go and form a team. Adele is not even able to tell us today. How many years did we have COVID? 3 years down the line. Adele is not able to tell us what their COVID-19 team, which was publicized across the country. I mean, when you have a statesman in the person of President Mahama, you expect that when the president comes out to say certain things and they are not political, that is what for me I crave for. You come together and say that we support this call. In fact, we are hoping that ABCD will do. But not to come and say that you put a parallel team together. Who up to today, we're not even able to be sure whether they were even able to deal with cholera issues at the NPP headquarters, at the NDC headquarters. Thank you very much.
We end it right here. So it's Isaac J. Hyde, Deputy National Youth Organizer, MPP, and Comrade Adel Umar, member of the National Communication Team, NDC. We were talking about matters arising from update number 29 from the president. Blue is the favorite color of most men in the world, all right? And blue is the subject of the next conversation. And the man who's going to have the conversation is appropriately dressed in the favorite color of all men. It's about the National Blue Economy Summit. It's going to be really eye-opening. You stick around. Do not go anywhere. My blue is on my watch. Can you see? Blue. I told you.